Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We're just going to wait for a few more people to join and then we will make a start. Thanks for joining, everyone. Just going to give it a couple more minutes for a few more attendees to join, and then we'll kick off the session. Okay, great. Let's make a start. First of all, good morning, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining this AWS and Sumo Logic Immersion Day session. I'm going to take us through and introduce us to everybody that's going to be talking to you today. Before I do that, I'm going to apologize. I am currently recovering from COVID, so I have a bit of a cough. So if I kind of lose my voice or cough during the session, my apologies. I will try and mute before I know that's going to happen. Anyway, hopefully you can all see my screen there. So let's make a start. And I'm going to come in now and introduce you to our speakers for this session. Tony, let me hand over to you first of all, please.
Thanks, Stefan. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Immersion Day between AWS, Sumo Logic, and yourself. My name is Tony Trin, Senior Partner Solution Architect based out of Melbourne, Australia. In my role, I work very closely with ISV or independent software vendor like Sumo Logic in helping you, the customer, our mutual customer, to implementing the best solution across either AWS native service or ISV solution. And really happy to be here to sharing with you some of the best practices that we have from AWS, and also how solution from Sumo Logic will help you to achieve those best practices. Back to you, Stefan.
Great, thanks, Tony. Suresh, I'll hand over to you next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Suresh. I'm working as a senior enterprise sales engineer with Sumo Logic. I predominantly handle the APAC region. I work along with Stefan Tapp and rest of the other customers, partners, and position Sumo Logic to show value of the platform to you. Happy meeting all of you. I will be assisting Stefan today and help you guys run a couple of labs to get familiar with the platform. Back to you, Stefan.
Great, thanks, Suresh. And yeah, hi everyone, finally. My name is Stefan Tapp. I am the security lead for Sumo Logic, covering the APAC region. I've worked in and around security operations for some 20 years, I guess, everything from being a security analyst through to building SOCs and optimizing security operations centers and teams and so on. So hopefully you'll find me in good company with yourselves today with that kind of background. And obviously that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today with the solutions that we offer here between AWS and Sumo. So let me just quickly cover off then the agenda that we're going to go through today. Obviously we kind of done that welcome. The next step then is to give you a quick introduction on Cloud SIEM powered by AWS with Sumo Logic. Then we're going to go through a couple of hands-on labs. So the first one is going to be on our Cloud SIEM, and Suresh is going to take you through that one. We'll give you a login, so you can actually log into the live environment at the same time as we're running through some of the kind of demos and so on. We'll share a document with you shortly as well. That's got a couple of exercises that you're more than welcome to go through at the same time. Then we'll take a very quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more then about the Cloud SIEM Advanced. And that's where we use some pretty in-depth capabilities to correlate across multiple sources, from cloud to on-premise, etc., etc. And again, we'll do some a live demo and some hands-on labs there as well. I'm going to get you guys to go in and actually play the role of the security analyst and do an investigation and see how that goes. And then we'll do a quick Q&A towards the end and a wrap up. We also have an event survey. I'm going to just share that with you now in the chat window. We would really appreciate it if you could just copy this or open up this link that I send you. I promise you it doesn't take you anywhere bad. But yeah, we really appreciate some feedback from you on this particular session. It helps us understand, the content that we're delivering to you, etc. Okay. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hand you back to Tony to go through some of the key aspects around the AWS side. So let me just advance that slide. Tony, just give me a quick nod when you want me to go to the next slide, and I'll move that on.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Stefan, for that. All right, so let's start with a bit of, let's say, the security foundational from AWS perspective. So at AWS, we take security really seriously. And that's our job zero for everyone at AWS. And we also heard from customer like yourself, across multiple segments like enterprise, SMB, startup, ISV, DNB, is that when a customer either purchase or use the software, the three factors that are most important to them. The first and foremost is always security. And second is scalability. And the third is integration, as in how easy to integrate a new software product into the existing landscape of a company. Right, so today we obviously focus on the most important factor, which is security. And as AWS, we do have multiple native service to provide you with, the security of the cloud. And one of those is AWS Organizational. And the way that AWS Organizational help you to improve your security posture is that we provide a reference architecture on how to deploy multiple accounts on AWS. And one of the purpose for that is that we want to narrow down, we want to, reduce the blast radius. So, whenever there's a security issue happen, it's only happen within a particular area and it doesn't impact your entire technology landscape, right? And with AWS organization, you can create multiple organizational unit. So for example, you have one OU for marketing, you have another OU for your app development, you have another OU for, the purpose of logging and auditing, right? So I'll go through several typical common OU that we've seen being used across multiple customer and partner. The first one is the organizational management account, which is the one that used to create AWS organization. And this is the very first one that you will have when you start to use AWS organization, right? And then the second one that you want to think and start to use right after that is what we call security OU. And that's where, you host security tooling, the like of, Sumo Logic, Cloud SIEM, if you want to keep it in your AWS account. I understand that Sumo also have SaaS and PaaS offering, but I mean, in case if you want to use any security tooling, you may want to keep that within one AWS account of the security OU. And then you also want to have the log archival account within that same OU as well. And the purpose of this log archival account is so that you can centralize all of your log, like for example, CloudTrail log, into that account and lock it down to make sure that even if there's a malicious factor who can penetrate into your AWS infrastructure and perform certain unwanted action, then you have a audit trail of what happened, who did what at what time. So you want to, sort of stream off your CloudTrail log into this log archival account, or using Cloud SIEM from Sumo Logic to store that log as well. So you can always go back and audit it, and you have a immutable set of events that happened in the past. Now, moving on from the security OU, you also want to set up, infrastructure OU for the purpose of, sales services, as well as networking. Like, for example, if you want to leverage services like gateway load balancer or transit gateway, right? So you want to host those, you want to keep those networking and share services within a certain infrastructure OU. And last but not least, well, obviously there are many more other OU that you can create, but the last one that we typically see that being used across multiple customers is the workload OU. This is obviously the place where, you do all the development, testing, and then running of your application, right? And that's where, your bread and butter are. But, security OU and infrastructure OU is something that you really want to set up properly at the beginning, so that you don't have to worry about, maybe a security breach, maybe 2 years or even 1 year down the line. Moving on to the next topic, is that, Stefan, could you move to the next slide? Yep, thanks. We're gonna take a deep dive into the security tooling account, because that is the center, the focus of today's section. And I'm gonna share with you a set of tool. And by no means this is not an exhaustive list, right? And by no means you have to use all of this, but this is really just something that it happened that many of our customers use and find them really, really useful. For example, you can have AWS config aggregator and Amazon Event Bridge. So what you can do is that you can create multiple config rule. For example, you decide that, developer can only spin up certain type of EC2 instance or perform certain type of action on certain type of AWS native service. You create those rules. And then you have, AWS config to enforce those. And whenever, any of your developers sort of violate any of those rules, then you receive an alert through event bridge, through event bridge. And based on those events, you can either, alerting your infrastructure team or alerting your security team through Lambda and SNS or, simple notification service. But not only alerting, what you can do is that you can build custom remediation action using either Lambda or your own application of choice, right? And what you can do is, like, for example, if someone either accidentally or intentionally make a private S3 bucket public, which is a potential huge risk for your company, because that person may be accidentally exposing all of your secret sauce about your business, then that Lambda could perform an action and then actually, convert or move that bucket from public back to private. And many other action, like, terminating certain type of EC2 instance that are either too costly or, not allowed for a certain role within your organization, right? So those are just one or two examples of what you can do with, config, event bridge, and Lambda. Now, obviously, you have many other choices, like, firewall manager, and the name is self-descriptive, right? You can set up application firewall, and then preventing certain traffic from a certain geographic region. For example, with a recent event, you may want to lock down all the traffic from Russia or North Korea, right? You can do that with firewall. Or you want to identify any sensitive data that being stored within your S3 bucket. Like, for example, if your company have ingest and process a lot of PII, personally identifiable information, or PHI, protected health information, in your S3 bucket, you want to identify those automatically using Amazon Macy. And also after you identify those, you want to mask those, right? Because if you operate within the FSI, financial service industry, or if you are a government agency, or in any heavily regulated industry, you want to make sure that your sensitive data is only be able to access by certain group of people and resource, right? Look, I'm not gonna go through every single one of these services, because that would make you feel more like a sales section from AWS. Obviously in this slide, I share with you a couple of example on how you can leverage AWS native service tooling to help you to improve your security posture. But last but not least, right, very, very importantly, is that at AWS, we understand that AWS native service may be good, but we do have many areas that we have not covered, or either because we haven't got the right service, or we haven't got the right feature, or our feature are just too primitive as compared to our partner, like the one from Sumo Logic. And that's why we understand that, and we always try to work backward from your need, our customer need, and always try to recommend you the best solution that we think would fit your use case. So I mean, in a case where there's an AWS native service that can serve the need, but there's also solution from Sumo Logic that also serve very similar or identical need, and we believe that Sumo Logic is superior in that case, then we would never hesitate to connect you to Sumo, so that you can always get the best solution out of AWS and the ecosystem of partner, right? Now moving on to the next one. I think I touched a little bit on log archival account already, but it's never enough to mention. I'm sure you heard about company who accidentally grant over permissive to access to their consultant, or maybe to their intern, or maybe forgot to remove access of some of their employee, because those mechanisms were not automatic, or many of the unfortunate event that happened in the last decade only been discovered after several months, or even after a year after those hacking or those security event already happened, right? So what you can do to reduce the risk of exposure with that, and also be able to go back in time and have a look at what really happened, yesterday, last week, last month, right? Is that you want to have all of this logging, all of this activity turn on for your account across all of the AWS region. And it doesn't cost you anything if there's no activity in certain region. For example, if you and your company operate in Asia Pacific today, only, it doesn't cost you a single cent for you to turn on CloudTrail multi-region in, say, for example, North America, because if you don't have any activity in that region, there's no charge, technically zero charge. But if there's certain, let's say, hacker from another region of the world trying to break into your account by turning on all this CloudTrail log across all regions, you'll be able to have that audit trail and identify those malicious activity real early on. And apart from CloudTrail, there are many other kind of log that you want to turn on as well, like for example VPC flow log, so you understand the IP traffic on each of your network interface, or access log from CloudFront and AWS web application firewall. And the reason is that you want to understand whether certain traffic are actually legit traffic, or are they coming from bot, right? And are they part of a distributed denial of service or DDoS attack, right? And then DNS log as well from Route 53, because in case you want to understand whether there's any man in the middle type of attack that is happening. So those kind of log are very critical for you to understand what really happened in the past, but also identify, legit pattern traffic from your user, and then come up with a better plan to serve them. Say you identify there's a lot of traffic come from a certain new region or new country that you haven't really paid attention to in the past. Now you can do it with the access from all those log, right? So not only security, log archiving and protection also provide you with a lot of insight for your business. Maybe, you know, that is a future trend for you to expand your business. Maybe, you know, that is where you can do cost optimization, right? So multiple things that you can do with it. And the centerpiece is Amazon S3 is where you can or you know, another solution. Again, if you think that, you know, Sumo Logic has a better equivalent or better solution for storing, centralizing your log, for, you know, analyzing to come up with better business strategy, then yeah, please go ahead and use Sumo Logic solution. But otherwise, the concept is that, you know, having this one central place where you can keep all this auditing, audit trail, logging, and then go back to it later, and using that immutable version of the logging. Now, moving on to the next one, to the next topic, as I mentioned briefly in the previous slide, is that you know, this is the AWS organizational structure where you have multiple OU, and then you can centralize event, right, by using you know, Amazon Event Bridge, or the old name were CloudWatch event. So number 4 on that diagram is CloudWatch event, CW event. The new name is Event Bridge. And then based on you can create rule as well, because not all events are something that you want to be alerted on, because otherwise your Slack message or your pager or your email address, your email inbox will be flooded with alert, right? So you want to write some rule for those CloudWatch event, or for the event bridge, right? So for example, if someone you know, put a new object into a certain S3 bucket, you know, you want to be alerted, because that S3 bucket may be something that, you know, very sensitive. It is something that public published and available for everyone in the company, and you want to control only certain kind of static access to reside in that bucket. But someone sort of, maybe an intern or maybe a contractor didn't have the understanding of this policy, and accidentally put a business planning document into that S3 bucket, and you want to immediately be alerted of that. And you know, based on the rule, you can kick off a certain Lambda function to either remediate those action, or you know, send that to Sumo Logic solution, right? And then Sumo Logic solution can take it from there. So you either get alerted, or actually not either or, but you can, you know, choose to have all of this option open to you: get alerted, remediate, or you know, either remediate using AWS native solution, or remediate and alerted by Sumo Logic. So this is really, I'm just really touching the tip of the iceberg here. There are many more other best practices in terms of, you know, security, identity access management, information and event management, that AWS can share with you. And we have multiple white paper and research, as well as, you know, real life example, you know, battle proven, that we've learned through serving hundreds or even thousands of customers, which I'm more than happy to share with you after this section. So you can always email me, or you know, maybe send me a message on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to connect and you know, unpack more. But again, let me get back to the focal point of today's section, that is about, you know, Sumo Logic, the Cloud SIEM solution. So I'd like to hand it back over to Stefan and Suresh, so that they can walk them through the level 3 to 400. I mean, the deep down level on the deep down detail on how you can use solution from Sumo Logic for your need. And remember, everything that we share with you today is something that, you know, we work backward from the need of other customer who have a very similar concern to yours, or maybe even your own company, right? So this is not something that, you know, we sit in a room, come up with an idea, build it, and then go out and try to push you to buy. So this, no, that's not how it works. The way we came up with all this was that we listened to the need, requirement, and pain point for the customer like yourself, and also, you know, work backward from that, sort of distill what we think is the best solution into what you can use. So with that, I'd like to hand it back to Stefan. Stefan, take it over, please.
Right, thanks, Tony. Okay, let's kind of switch gears a little bit then and talk a little bit about some of the customer challenges that that typically we see here at Sumo Logic. So I guess the main one here, and this is pretty pertinent for me, having come from or having done security operations for quite a long time, way before cloud was on the horizon, so to speak, is that kind of multi-cloud support. And the real challenge there, I guess, is that legacy SIEM platforms weren't really designed to ingest log sources from the cloud. You know, historically, they were there, they would bring firewall events in, they would plug into Active Directory and get events from Windows servers, etc. But cloud didn't really exist in those days. And the problem we have is that a lot of legacy SIEM platforms haven't really developed much over the last couple of years, and certainly not in a way that makes it easy to ingest cloud log sources in. You know, whether that's something from AWS infrastructure, CloudTrail, Guard Duty, as we've kind of touched on a little bit so far today, right the way through to, you know, Microsoft Azure and Google as well. You know, historically, it was very hard to bring those into the platform, let alone bring them in from multiple platforms as well. And I guess that's a strong point, is that the Sumo solution is designed to give me visibility across multiple cloud platforms. Doesn't matter who my vendor is that I'm working with or which platform I'm on. I need to have that cross-platform visibility. So the second one there also leads on from that as well, is that shift in the threat landscape. You know, the days are gone of monitoring people that were port probing my perimeter devices, you know, and denial of service attacks against public facing IPs that I might own, etc. With this whole kind of digital transformation to the cloud, the threat landscape has moved with it as well. And as Tony mentioned earlier, you know, we now have things like the risk around S3 buckets being exposed, and we've all seen multiple stories in the news and the press over the years where, you know, information has been shared inadvertently because of the permissions were being too broad on these S3 buckets. So now, you know, there's a whole area there where people are actively hunting for exposed S3 buckets, exposed infrastructure via the cloud. And the third and final point here, again, is kind of alert fatigue. You know, we've moved across now, or we're in this transition to digital and cloud, but we haven't necessarily moved completely from on-premise. So we're in that transition phase where we have infrastructure on-premise, we have infrastructure in the cloud. So the number of events and noise that we're generating within security operations has increased exponentially. You know, it's not a shift from one to the other. It's just increasing all the time. And as we move to more cloud-focused applications, maybe for authentication, logging our infrastructure for customer accesses and so on, the number of events and the sheer volume of that is just accelerating exponentially. And the problem, again, is it's not a human scale problem, right? We can't just go and recruit, you know, a whole stack of security practitioners and throw them into a SOC and say, guys, I need you to put eyes on glass and look at all of these events. You know, there's a global shortage of security practitioners. The cost and the investment in training somebody to be a security analyst and how long they're going to stay working for me is also another risk there as well. You know, a lot of organizations find themselves in this perpetual motion of training people that then move on to other roles. So with Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM powered by AWS, there's you know, quite a few different things that we address. I apologize for that numbering there. I've just noticed I've got 3 1s and a 3. I don't know what's happened there. But we essentially reduce complexity and blind spots because we can bring in multiple cloud sources into one location. So I don't have to have, you know, 3 or 4 different SIEM platforms, one looking at AWS, one looking at Azure, another one looking at Google. It's worth pointing out there as well, because we are not vendor or platform specific. Okay, we're an agnostic vendor. It doesn't matter whether you're on AWS, Azure, or GCP, or any of the other infrastructure that you want to log. Because we're agnostic, we can log all of those easily, no problem at all. You're not constrained just because I'm using a Microsoft solution that's, you know, primarily driven towards Microsoft events. So we eliminate those blind spots by, you know, giving you that capability to look across all of your cloud, and additionally any legacy or on-premise infrastructure that you still have. We're a complement to, you know, to any expansion of AWS security services. The AWS security services and the tools are really incredibly powerful in what they do. But, you know, we are able to leverage on top of that. We can bring in context from other sources. So not only am I getting these really good visibility from things like AWS security tools, but I can also bring in some of the legacy tools as well and have enrichment and security context around those. Of course, we're actually hosted in Amazon as well. We're hosted in AWS, but we do have support for multi-cloud. But all of that data stays within AWS as well. So if you're AWS customers, you know, the whole cost perspective is really good. And then finally there, the last step, step number 3 of 4, is that it's really easy to buy Sumo Logic through the AWS marketplace. Excuse me. So let's talk about the 2 options we have available. They kind of address security in slightly different ways. So the first one is what we call our Cloud SIEM. So Cloud SIEM really, I'm not going to read everything that's kind of in that box there. You can have a read of that as I kind of talk through. The main thing there really is Cloud SIEM is designed for, if I have tool proliferation, right, I have multiple console logins in my environment, and I want to centralize logging into one place. I want to be able to meet compliance, things like PCI, HIPAA, etc. I want to be able to open up a dashboard and view what's happening with regards to my login activity, whether that's AWS login activity, maybe Azure, Microsoft, Active Directory, etc. It gives me the capability there to actually visualize all of that security information in one place. Compliance readiness there, not only to be able to, you know, run comprehensive dashboards in the product for things like PCI, but the Sumo platform is also has many attestations as well for PCI, SOC 2, Type 2, etc. So you can be assured that anything you're sending into the platform is, you know, falls under the remit of those attestations as well. We also have the ability for guard duty findings. So what we can do there is we can actually anomalize global information across all of our customers. And that's a really cool feature that I like within the product. It gives me the ability to launch a guard duty, you know, global baseline dashboard, and actually look at how I'm performing with other peers, other companies that Sumo Logic has. We anomalize all of that information, so we never share actual specific information from various different customers. But it allows me to look at, you know, am I generating any guard duty alerts that are very unique, very rare, very unusual? Are the number of alerts I'm generating generally higher than a peer? Am I lower than a peer? So it's a really good way to benchmark your organization's security against other companies. And again, all driven in one place inside of the Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM. Total cost of ownership is pretty low. You know, for us, the costing is just around ingestion into the platform. Again, it doesn't matter where I'm bringing those logs in from. I'm just paying for ingestion. It doesn't matter who's using that information. And we'll look at some of those in a couple of slides forward as well, about the different use cases that we can have for the data that I'm bringing into the platform. And then finally, you know, I've touched on that a little bit around that integration. You know, I'm either fully cloud, or I'm on premise, or I'm in between somewhere. So having a solution that can bring all of those logs in from those different areas to give me that single kind of pane of glass, so to speak, is really powerful. The second part of Cloud SIEM is our Cloud SIEM Advanced. So this is where we start to apply some more kind of general analytics and automation for our security operations teams. So the ability there is to normalize and enrich. All of my log sources now, as they're coming into Cloud SIEM Advanced, I can enrich that information, excuse me, with some additional context. So if I've got a log file or an event coming into the platform that's got an external IP address, I can actually enrich that information using an ASN lookup automatically. So now as a security analyst, instead of me having to go and jump onto an external website, put in an IP address and find out where that IP is hosted, it brings that automation into the platform automatically. And we do a similar thing with Active Directory, bringing in information around an Active Directory or an Azure user. So I can get some context about who they are, which department they're in, and so on. We use entity-based correlation as well. For anybody who's on this session who's got familiarity with the SIEM platform, historically correlation was kind of the foundational capability of a SIEM platform, right? I need to be able to look across multiple log sources to be able to track what's happening across those. We do it slightly differently in our Cloud SIEM Advanced. We automatically correlate based on an entity. So whether it's a user, an IP address, host name, etc., we're tracking what that entity is doing across all of the log sources that I'm bringing in. At the same time, I'm looking at the risk or the severity score for that entity across all of those log sources as well. We have pretty comprehensive out-of-the-box content. I think at my last count, there was something like 600 rules out of the box that are curated by Sumo Logic. So we have a team of content engineers at Sumo. They are all security analysts, ex-security analysts, etc. And those guys work day in, day out, curating detection rules in our platform. If there's a new vulnerability that's announced, something like Log4j, that was one of the recent ones that springs to mind, our guys will create content, test it fully, and then deploy that to all of our customers literally within hours sometimes of that vulnerability being announced. I still have the capability to go in and create custom content, of course. If I have a custom log source in my environment that I want to be able to do some detection around, I can bring that in and very quickly create content for it as well. The key thing here, this next bit, prioritizing investigations, excuse me, and eliminating alert fatigue. This is probably the main thing that drew me to the Sumo Logic platform. In all of my time as a security analyst, we always talked about automating responses. Okay, so something's happened, I have a security incident, now I want to go and automate how I remediate it. Automate blocking an IP, automate resetting a user password. And of course, we're able to do that with SOAR tools, and we have been able to do that for quite a long time. However, no other SIEM vendor has really thought about how do I automate the investigation phase? How do I take 1 million alerts every day and automate investigation to give a handful of high fidelity things to look at? So Cloud SIEM Advanced does that for me. It uses this advanced signal clustering capability that's tracking this entity, tracking the risk or the severity, and then bringing those into a very much smaller number of higher fidelity alerts, all in a complete timeline of activity. So now I can see what's happened in an incident from end to end, not just having to go and look at a single alert and then spend hours in a SIEM platform drilling down and trying to manually build a timeline. So those are kind of the key two areas. Cloud SIEM really is designed for an organization who doesn't have a full-blown security operations team. Okay, so we're starting off on that journey. I need to log everything centrally. I need to meet compliance. I want to see what's happening in my environment. And then as I mature, or if I'm a big enough organization already and I've got a dedicated security operations team, I want to be able to to correlate across everything, to automatically track what's happening with my entities in the environment. And then that's where Cloud SIEM Advanced comes into play. So just to kind of cover off here, I guess, our Sumo Logic continuous intelligence platform and some of the key areas that we find our customers using it. So it's used for operational intelligence, monitoring infrastructure, making sure that my, maybe my containers are up and running properly, that my infrastructure is working as it should be. I'm not having instances with, processor drain and that kind of thing. So I can use those as my typical use cases. Security intelligence, obviously that's a little bit around what we've discussed so far today, but also business intelligence as well. An example there may be, a customer who's an online retail presence. They want to monitor the public or the customer facing infrastructure. How many times do I have customers successfully checking out? What about abandoned shopping carts? So all of that information can be brought back in to give me that kind of business intelligence that I need. And then finally that global intelligence, that capability to benchmark my security or my infrastructure against peers and other organizations using the global benchmarking system. What kind of data can we bring in? Pretty much as you can see here, right? Anything from applications, microservices, cloud systems, SaaS platforms, mobile devices, and anything else you can bring into the Sumo platform. We are completely multi-tenant, which means that everything within a customer organization is siloed, okay? We don't share infrastructure between customers. That's really important for scalability and for security, of course, as well. Scalability in Elastic, if your logging increases, let's say you're getting a denial of service attack, okay, and now I'm logging 50 times more events from a firewall than I was yesterday or an hour ago. Historically, with some of those legacy SIEM platforms, I'd be in that position where the infrastructure, the hardware, couldn't process those events quick enough. So I'd end up losing visibility. My SIEM platform would die and I just couldn't do anything with it. With Sumo, we're completely scalable. We will scale up compute, memory, CPU, whatever, to cater for that ingest increase. When that's subsided, it brings it back down again. And that's all completely transparent to you as the customer as well, okay? And it's all as part of our platform. We introduced machine learning across the whole platform. A couple of things really that spring to mind here are log reduce and log compare. So log reduce, instead of me sitting and having to look at 1,000 logs, I can look at reducing those down to a subset of logs where I've got 10 different log types out of that 1,000 original ones. Log compare allows me to compare a log with something that's happened today versus something that's happened yesterday. Maybe I've got a bad IP address in my environment, and now using log compare, I can look at where that IP address is appearing in my logs across my infrastructure versus where it was seen yesterday. Really good use case there, of course, would be something like lateral movement. Has this bad IP got access into my system and is now able to look across my environment, whereas yesterday they didn't have that access. So it's very good in troubleshooting as well for non-security use cases. Pretty comprehensive APIs in and out of the platform. We have those advanced analytics, the global intelligence, Cloud SIEM Advanced. And then, of course, for a purely security use case, if you want to use the platform just for security and monitoring, it has that ability to do that as well. There are different types of users that we have, DevOps, engineering, IT operations, security teams, data scientists. It's a whole heap of lots of different use cases there that can be used for the platform. When it comes to specifically security intelligence, because of course that's what we're talking about today, we've got three key areas here really. So audit and compliance, the one on that left-hand side there, that's a highly scalable, secure platform that allows me to store all of my data. And again, as I mentioned, it's backed by all of these security attestations we have as well. So you know that it is secure. And it gives me that ability to log everything in one place, and not have multiple tools that I need to log into and view. The second option there then is that security analytics. Okay, so we kind of leverage a little bit more information on top of that now. Gives me the ability to perform deep searches, those dashboards and alerting capabilities. And then, of course, those advanced analytics that I talked about, log reduce, log compare, the global intelligence, etc. And then finally, on the right-hand side there, we have our Cloud SIEM Advanced. Okay, it gives me that advanced correlation, the ability to contain my workflow as well within Cloud SIEM Advanced. So if I don't want to use an external case management system, I can actually, work on those insights within the platform and perform my workflow, open, investigate, close, reassign, all the usual kind of things that you would do. And the main thing there, the main feature of that product is that automated incident investigation part, where it has that capability to sift through those thousands of alerts and just give me that handful of high priority, high fidelity alerts. We do also have a SOAR capability as well. So if I do want to do that automation of my investigation phase, then Sumo's Cloud SOAR is there available as well. Let me just step through those parts. Excuse me. So yeah, these are the three key things. I have searching capability, deep searching and foundational correlation and alerting. Dashboarding and alerting to give me that data enrichment and in visualization. And then, of course, those advanced analytics there as well, the ability to be able to troubleshoot, detect, investigate, and respond. A lot of the content in Cloud SIEM is driven by our app catalog. There's around about 200 apps in total that will cover everything from my security use cases, looking at Windows events, for example, and monitoring, failed logins, login successes, where are my users logging in from, through to dedicated applications for AWS Guard Duty, CloudTrail, and so on. And then, of course, there's a lot of operational based apps there as well that I can bring in for other areas of my organization that are not security focused. So to give you a quick overview here before we start jumping in, and I hand over to Suresh, we have something like threat intelligence built in as well. This is powered by CrowdStrike. This gives me the ability to literally look at every log source I have coming into the platform. Doesn't matter whether it's production, development, infrastructure, public facing infrastructure, or whatever. I have this capability using the CrowdStrike threat intelligence that's built in to be able to look at everything coming through. And then it gives me these different dashboards here, looking at things like IP addresses. Where am I communicating to a known bad IP? It'll give me information here on where the geolocation is. Tell me which log sources I've got communicating. What's the severity? Is it a low severity? Is it high severity? And then background information on the actors as well. So which country, which particular actor is it that we're communicating with? And then I have some kind of trending analysis there. Am I seeing more threats or more communications to bad IPs this week than I was seeing last week? So this is pretty comprehensive. It's built into the product. I can look at IPs, file hashes, domain names, URLs. It's really, really comprehensive. It's a foundational part of security. It's being able to go in and look up against these threat intelligence sources. Okay, so with that, I'm going to hand over to Suresh now to take you through our Cloud SIEM core product. So let me hand over to you, Suresh. I will stop my sharing and leave it to you.
Thank you, Stefan. So let me walk the team through the core platform and the security features that we have in this particular platform. So let me share my screen here. So what I'm showing you now is the core platform. This is the screen that you would be seeing in once you log into the Sumo Logic platform. So here I'm looking at manage data collection. So here I can see all my different collectors. This being a demo setup, you can see there are a lot of sources which we have set it up for people to explore the data inside this particular platform. And you can see data coming in from very diverse set of sources. These can be from applications, infrastructure, security. There are so many different sources from which you can actually send the data to the Sumo Logic platform. Let's take a minute to see how we can send data to the platform. We support one of the highest possible methods to send data to the Sumo Logic SaaS platform in the most secure way. At the center, you see the Sumo Logic SaaS platform. We collect data in the form of agent as well as agentless collection mechanisms. So the install collector is the agent-based mechanism used predominantly for on-prem environments. We can collect data from Windows, Unix, Linux, EC2 sort of instances. What this agent does is that it collects the data in the form of logs as well as metrics. Once it collects the data, it does a very high level of compression and sends the data to Sumo Logic. While we transmit the data, we use HTTPS TLS 1.2, so your data in transit is completely encrypted and secure. And once the data reaches Sumo Logic platform, we again encrypt with AES-256 base standards, and we keep rotating the keys on a periodical basis. So your data in transit and rest is completely safe and secure during transit, as well as the data and the rest. Right hand side, you can see the hosted collectors. We support data collection from all the three major public clouds today: AWS, Azure, as well as GCP. And we also support data collection from single sign-on platforms, SaaS platforms, microservices-based environments, CDNs, etc. So we support a very diverse set of sources from which you can send data to. It is as simple as you tell us where your data is, and we will give you a method to bring the data into the platform. And once all the data comes in, you can see the managed data collection, which shows all those different sources along with the messages, the data which is coming into the platform. Once all this data comes in, how do I leverage this data? How do I get the visualizations? This is the place where we provide you an app catalog. So this is a collection of 200 plus applications spanning across various different categories like AWS, compliance and security. There are 50 plus dedicated applications. These are out-of-the-box applications from Sumo Logic. These are built by Sumo Logic, supported by Sumo Logic, and these are completely free applications. So all that is required is to send the data and deploy this application on top of that. And all the dashboards will come alive with your data on it. Right, so this is a wide variety of applications that we have. And from compliance and security, 50 plus apps, which are readily available, and you can make use of the other apps as well. Having seen the app catalog, I would like to show you how you can install one or two apps. Let's look at, for example, a threat intel feed, which Stefan talked about. So we have a threat intel quick analysis app, which you can deploy in any application data that you bring in. And we have a threat intel app for AWS. Say, for example, threat intel quick analysis, all that is required is that I can go to this application, click it, and then for me to understand about how this app works, how do I integrate, etc., all I need to do is just click learn more. This launches a context specific menu. So this talks about how you can actually collect data and how you can install the app and then view the data. So these are the two simple steps. I'm going to show you how to do that. Click add integration, and you need to mention what is your source category, which you set it up during data collection. I'm going to look at all my data. So I'm putting a star here and then click next. And this application will be installed, and you can see the dashboards, which I have kept it ready for you. So here you can see the threat intel quick analysis overview here, which shows a summary, looks at the total number of data that is seen, that total IP threats in this environment, the URL threats, domain, file threats, and threats over time. And for you to get more details about, say, for example, the IP threats, all you need to do is just click this, and I will be taken to the threat intel quick analysis IP dashboards. I can see all the details here, the total thread count, the geolocation of this particular threads. I can see the thread breakdown by sources, threads over time, malicious confidence of low, medium, high given by CrowdStrike. If I see any threat actors, which is shown here along with a detailed threat table. So you can see all those dashboards readily available. You can see for email, #256 URLs as well. So this is a quick app that we provide, which you can deploy it across any data source that you have. You can deploy it across the entire data sources as well. Stefan has posted a file in the chat that contains a small lab exercise. We can get onto this lab to experience the core platform now. So I have kept that lab exercise open here. You can go to the chat and you can open this lab exercise. So for doing this lab, we are going to log into the Sumo Logic environment. You can use this URL. You can use this email ID and then the password to log in. The hashes, you can replace it with any 3-digit number of your choice. Once you choose a 3-digit number, please post it in the chat as well so that others do not pick up that particular 3-digit number. Right. So if you are not able to log in, please let us know. You can put a message in the chat and then we can help you to get into the platform. So the first exercise is that we are going to see how we can monitor user logins from different IP addresses. This query is going to look into the CloudTrail logs, looks at console logins, and it finds out if someone has logged in from more than one IP address over a specified duration. So this can actually help us to identify if any accounts has been compromised or any credentials have been leaked or phished. Right. So this is a generic query. We can use it for any source, but right now what we are showing you in the lab is for AWS, but you can run it for any source that you have. So for simplicity's sake, I have copied and pasted this query here. So here you can see this is my source category. I'm looking to my CloudTrail logs and I'm looking for keyword console logins. All these JSONs are nothing but extracting various different fields inside the logs. And we are looking at a condition where the console login is a success. Then I'm going to count the ARN of the source IP address. So let me run this and then we will see how this query basically works. I suggest you to try it on the platform simultaneously. So now we can see the various feeds are extracted and it's showing up in the console here. Now I'm going to show you how this queries look like. So we are basically looking at count by source IP address and we are sorting it out by the various ARNs. So you can see it here now. You can look at the data in any format like a table format, line, bar chart, depending on what data that you want to visualize. Now, this is a place where we are looking at multiple logins. So we are taking, we're counting it by the rows here, and where we are going to look at the console logins much more than one. So you can see this query now returning wherever we are seeing more logins, you can see that being shown up over here. Now I can rearrange this data. I can look at my fields. I can remove all the unwanted data that I do not want to show. This is what the fields is all about. I'm going to look at count and the row number here. And when I do my search for the last 15 minutes, it shows me the ARNs, the source IP addresses, and what is the total that the system sees here. Now, this data is good for me to see. I see the source IP, the totals, and all the other stuff, along with the user ID. But I would like to visualize this particular data. So this is a place where we can help you with a geo IP command. So this will do a lookup of the source IP addresses, which are seen in this output. And it will show me where those IP addresses are actually originating from. So I can click this view here. This shows me where those IPs are seen. The geo IP basically does a lookup and takes up data like the latitude, longitude, country code, city, etc., and shows me the data in a graphical manner. So this helps me to see where those source IP addresses are located across the globe. Right, so this is a query which helps you to identify multiple logins from single IP address. Right now, this is showing up for AWS, but you can customize this and you can use it for any environment, any source that you have. Right. Any questions you have, please feel free to put it in the chat or the Q&A box, and we will help you answer that. So this is the first lab activity. The second lab activity we are going to do is about testing the threat intel capability that we have in the platform. So here we are going to look in for one known IP address, indicator of compromise. You can always change this to any IP address and then you can actually have a look. So let's look at this second lab exercise now. So here we are going to take one of the IP addresses and I'm defining this as my threat. And I am going to see how this query works. So this is right now showing up as my thread. You can see this IP addresses being shown over here. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to do a lookup with the threat intel feed that we have from CrowdStrike against this IP address. So now you can see the system is running the query and it has identified if it has any records which it has in the threat intel feed. Now I can set up my conditions over here and see if that particular data exists, whether that is a malicious confidence is null and all the other stuff. I can see the data does exist, which shows yes. The malicious confidence is shown as low now, and for this particular IP address, this is my raw log record. You can see the type is IP, and this is the actual log message. As usual, what I can do is that I can go ahead and then use my fields. I can show only the fields that makes relevance for me. I can hide all the other fields. So using this field command, I am going to look at my thread, which is my IP address in this particular case, and whether the data exists and the malicious confidence and actor if any. And I can also use the same fields command to rearrange the fields as well as per my preference. So here you can see the my thread. I want to put in the malicious confidence first, followed by whether the data exists and the actor. Here you can go ahead and then replace this IP with any IP that you want to do a lookup, and you can do the lookup over there. So let me try some random number here and see what the system throws up. Right? Data exists is no. Right? So like this, you can make use of the threat intel app, the lookup. So I have already shown you the application, how it looks, etc. But that's not all about the core platform. With Sumo Logic, you can address a lot of use cases. So what I'm showing you here is a comprehensive set of things that you can actually detect using Sumo Logic. You can set up all the alerts that you need. You can see a very wide range of use cases mentioned here, starting from denial of service, robotic behavior, security alerts. You can do a lot many number of detections using the core platform itself. Right, so that's pretty much what I wanted to show you quickly as part of the core platform. I believe you have got a taste about how the core platform works, how you can write queries, and how you can detect any threats which are seen inside your environment, and you can take suitable action and derive all the intelligence that you need. Right? That's pretty much what I wanted to cover. Back to you, Stefan.
Great, thanks, Suresh. Okay, so let me just jump back in and share my screen again. Make sure I find the right one. There we go. Okay, cool. All right, let me let's flick through here then, because this is pretty much what we've covered in this section. Okay, what I'm going to do then, just before we jump in to look at Cloud SIEM Advanced, I'm just going to, let's do a quick 5-minute break, just in case anybody needs to grab a cup of water or a quick coffee or something. And let's restart again at 10 minutes past the hour, or 40 minutes past the hour, I should say, for any of you guys, I think, that are in India. So yeah, another 5 minutes and then we'll jump back on. Okay, all right, let's move on to the next part then. Okay, so I guess a key kind of thing really about the about our Cloud SIEM advanced product is the fact that it was born and built in the cloud. You remember a little bit earlier on, I was talking about kind of legacy SIEM solutions and how they're difficult to log modern kind of, cloud platform infrastructure. So our Cloud SIEM Advanced was, it's always been a cloud-based product. It's never existed as an on-premise solution. So what does that mean for you? Well, essentially it means that all of that scalability and security has been built in from day one, right? We talked a little bit about, if you get a denial of service attack and suddenly I have to log, 20, 50 times more logs than I did earlier, I need to make sure I have a platform that can scale up automatically to allow that to happen. The worst thing you want is in a major security incident is to have your SIEM platform go down because you've reached a log ingest limit or you've maxed out on processing power or something. It's always been focused on security events as well. So it's always had that capability to ingest log events from anywhere. Any security event, on-premise, cloud, etc., and then have that ability to kind of correlate across all of those in real time. I just want to mention on that point as well on correlation. So historically, we think about correlation rule as being a hard-coded rule, right, that says look for 10 failed logins followed by a success. So yes, within Cloud SIEM Advanced, I do have that capability. Some of our content rules are based around that kind of typical brute force attack scenario. But because the way we do this adaptive signal clustering, correlation for us is also automatic. I don't need to think about endless different scenarios. What if I get a user who gets compromised and then the bad actor gets access to this system and then accesses this and then exfiltrates data and so on? Because we're tracking that entity and the risk score associated with it, we automatically correlate for you, okay? And because of that adaptive clustering engine, we're reducing false positives. To give an example, I think there was one customer we were working with who on their existing SIEM platform were reaching somewhere around about 95% false positives. We came in, we did a proof of concept with them or proof of value, and I think our false positive rate was around about 9%. You're never going to get rid of false positives in the SIEM platform. Doesn't matter how good it is, you're always going to have some. But to be able to go from 90% down to 9% is huge. I've never been able to achieve that on other SIEM platforms I've worked with. And that's all down to this adaptive signal clustering, this automation of that investigation piece. Everything we do within the platform is aligned to the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So all of our content, all of our signals when they're generated are aligned to either a tactic, technique or sub-technique. And as you see when we go into the platform shortly, our actual insight names are named after those various stages in the framework. That clustering capability, making sure related events are actually clustered together to give me that timeline of activity is really important. And then having this really cool enterprise heads-up display and workflow capability as well within the platform is really important. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually jump into Cloud SIEM Advanced. I'm going to show you the product, and then I'll go through an investigation with you. And then using those same credentials that you have already, I'll show you where to get into Cloud SIEM Advanced, Cloud SIEM Enterprise, and actually go through, and I'll leave you to do an investigation yourself. Then we'll regroup and we will kind of compare notes, see if we came up with the same conclusion. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and look, excuse me, specifically at one insight that gets generated. So let me just switch shares with you so I can find the right share. There we go. Okay, so I'm starting off in the core platform. Okay, this is our Cloud SIEM platform, and this is what Suresh took you through a short while ago. So if you guys are all still logged into it, please feel free to follow along in your own instance, or you can just watch the screen and follow through what I'm doing here as well. So to get into Cloud SIEM Advanced, I come down to the bottom here and click on this Cloud SIEM Enterprise. Okay, now this will open that up in the same window. If you want to keep that original core platform window there as well, just do a right click, open link in new tab, for example. And then that will open up the Cloud SIEM Advanced UI for you. I'm sure you'll agree it is completely different to what we've looked at already. And you've probably been wondering this virtual background I've got behind me, you know, what that's been all about for all the time I've been talking. So this is our Cloud SIEM Advanced UI. It looks really cool. And it is completely functional. You might think it kind of looks a bit like a computer game. The reason behind that is the UI was actually designed by one of the lead designers from World of Warcraft. So it was designed to be easy on the eye, completely functional, but just something that's kind of super cool to have within a security operations center as well. But yeah, trust me, it is completely functional as well. Quick overview before I jump into this insight and take you through. So what are we looking at here on the main screen? Top left-hand corner here. So over the last 7 days, and I can modify this down to 4 hours if I want to. But over the last 7 days, I've got 249,000 records coming in. So those are those raw events coming in from the core platform that I then enrich. If you remember, I mentioned about enriching it with ASN information, maybe some Active Directory context, etc. So those records, they get created. They then get run across that rules engine, 600 out of the box content rules at the last count. When there's a match, that triggers a signal. Okay, now there's 10,000 signals here, excuse me. On a legacy platform, that's where I would spend my time as a security analyst. And I've worked with customers generating 9 million of these signals a day on older legacy SIEM platforms. There's no way in the world, right, you can, you know, investigate 10,000 signals, 1 million signals, 9 million signals, even with the biggest security team you could possibly go out and get your hands on. It's just not possible. So what happens here then is those signals are tracked by this adaptive signal clustering engine. And that creates these insights. So we've literally gone from 249,000 events down to 6 things that you really need to think about. You need to go and investigate. And as a recap, these insights then are tracked on an entity. So user, IP, hostname, MAC address, any other custom thing that I want to create an entity on, I can go in and create a custom entity. I'm tracking the entity from those signals. I'm tracking the risk or the severity score from that particular entity. And then I also have the ability here as well to look back over a longer time window. Out of the box, we track back for 14 days, but I can customize that to go back further. Why is that useful? Now it gives me the ability to be able to go and do a low and slow detection. So to give you an example, if I'm going to compromise an organization, we know the easiest way to get in right is via email. Send a phishing email to a user and hope they'll click on the link. So I'm going to send an email in, I'm going to get a user to click on the link, take me to a fake Office 365 login screen, and then I've got that user's credentials. Okay. So what I might do then is I might log into the Office 365 mailbox as that user. I'm going to spend a couple of days in there understanding who the user is, okay, what's their job function, who do they collaborate with, what's happening in their mail account. Maybe after 3 or 4 days of looking at that, I might then use those credentials elsewhere in the infrastructure. Okay, maybe I've got access via a link that's been shared in an email, takes me into SharePoint or anything else. But the main aim is I'm going to do that slowly. I'm going to leave 2 or 3 days between each time I go in, I want to make as little noise as possible, right? I don't want to alert anybody that I'm in their system. So Cloud SIEM is able to track that capability back for me. If I do something 5 days ago, it still remembers I did that 5 days ago. And it's going to tie that in with anything I'm doing today and anything I'm doing tomorrow. So I have that ability for low and slow. When that entity reaches a certain level of risk, and these signals have been generated and clustered together, then they get excuse me, promoted into this insight. So the insight now is that part where I'm going to go in and investigate as a security analyst. The main information is again presented here in this radar view in the center of the screen. So you can see my records coming in this outer ring, signals in the inner ring, and then these little color triangles here, those are those insights being generated. Color is dependent on the status. So red is new, amber is in progress, white, I think, is assigned to a dedicated team, and then green would be closed. Okay. Quick snapshot view of my latest insight, but we're going to take a look at one of those now. And then finally, this panel here in the lower right-hand side is just telling me what's happening today. New insights being created. Any of my analysts who are reassigning or assigning insights to themselves, that will be displayed in that panel for me. Okay, so let's go in then and have a look at an insight and kind of start working through the whole workflow of what an insight is. The first thing we come into here is what we call our Kanban viewboard. So this is the start of my workflow. If I wanted to reassign this particular insight to an email team, I can just drag it across and you'll see it will update that assignment for me. Okay, these are all customizable as well. I can create different ones, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, etc., etc. So I'm going to have a look at this this insight here that I've assigned across into my in progress queue. So like I said, the name of the insight is taken from the MITRE attack tags that have been triggered as part of these signals. So here we're looking at persistence with initial access. The number is sequential. Okay, so it'll go 15247, 15248, 15249, and you can see that here with these other numbering systems. Tells me what the entity is. It's an IP address in this case. How long it took to generate. So this was just a day. How many signals are part of this cluster, and what's the overall severity? Low, medium, high, or critical? Unfortunately, this doesn't really show in our training environment, but in a real customer environment, we again leverage that global intelligence. I talked a little bit about how we use that for guard duty earlier. In Cloud SIEM Advanced, we do the same thing. So when a customer has an insight generated, dependent on how they respond to it, so if they mark it as a real incident, maybe it is a false positive, maybe a no action or whatever. We anomalize that information. We look at the signals that are generated within that particular insight, again, anomalizing any customer information. And then we crowdsource that using some machine learning capability on the back end. What that means is every time an insight is generated now for a new customer, it will come with a global confidence score, anywhere between 0 and 100. The higher the score, the more confident we are that it's a real incident. Okay. But this also works locally as well. It looks at how I'm responding to these within my own environment, and it will apply that machine learning to those confidence scores as well. So unfortunately, it doesn't show on our training environment here at the moment, but normally I'd have a score there of somewhere between 0 and 100. Anyway, let's jump in and look at this now from a security analyst view. So I've already marked this as in progress. This left-hand panel really is, it's kind of my workflow in this top part of the panel. And then the rest of the panel here gives me information around the IP address, okay? Depending on what type of information it is, I might get a pop-up here. Here, it's actually just telling me that it's related to a domain controller, this IP address, Okay. If that was a user, then I would probably get Active Directory context for that user popping up as well. Again, here's that kind of information from that snapshot view. So what's the severity level? How many signals, when was it seen, when was it created, etc., etc. And then here are the tags being extracted from the signals. So whether it's a tactic, technique, sub-technique from the MITRE framework, or any other custom tag that I want to create and apply to those signals, it'll extract those for me as well. The main thing that we're investigating here is this right-hand workbench, as I like to call it. So at the very top, this histogram really is just a very kind of basic timeline of the signals. So I can see the first signal appeared over here on the left. As I hover over it, you'll see it highlights the related signal underneath. But the quickest and easiest way for me now to investigate this as a security analyst is literally just to scroll through and see what's happened. So first thing is I've got a thread intel match here. I'm ingesting a thread intel feed from Stix or Taxi or something. And it's detecting in one of my logs there's a match on the file hash. As I come down through here, I've got a proof point alert saying that a user's received an email with a phishing link. Some of the key information is being extracted here at the top level. Okay, I do have the ability to drill down on any signal to look at more information on that signal if I choose to do so. But even at this high level, I can see what's happened here. Okay, I've got a user that's received a phishing email. They've clicked on the link. Here's the entity that I'm tracking. It's that IP address. Here's the user email. As I scroll down through, the next thing I've got now is a checkpoint alert saying a file was allowed. And then finally, it ends up here with a CrowdStrike alert. So my EDR solution, my endpoint security is detecting that a malicious file has been executed. So literally, in under a minute, I've been able to build the picture here of what's happened. I've got a user who's received a phishing email, clicked on the link, downloaded a file, and the file has tried to deploy on the endpoint. Now, historically, if I think about my time as a security analyst, it was more than likely I would have had an alert from my antivirus tool, my EDR solution, saying, hey, malware detected. Then I'd have to do a drill down into that event. So who was the user? What was the IP address or the host name? Then I'd have to do a search in the SIEM platform. What else happened around the time for this IP or this user? How did the malware get to the endpoint? Did a user click on a web browsing link? Did they get an email with the link? Did they insert a USB drive? It would take me around about 2 hours to manually build this timeline. And that's from my own experience, okay? Whereas here, because I've done this adaptive signal clustering, I've automated this investigation phase. In under 2 minutes, I can now come to that same conclusion. So I've gone from 2 hours of a malicious file being in my environment to literally 2 minutes of being notified and being able to detect and remediate. So now I know I've got something there. I know how it got there. I can go and remediate whatever I need to do, whatever my processes are. Maybe it's my responsibility to run a full endpoint scan using my EDR tool. Maybe I can automate that using SOAR, etc. Okay. But you can see how quick and easy it is to actually investigate this particular incident here that's happened. It is so fast and so easy. Makes my life really easy now as an analyst. Okay. I can also look at related entities from this view. So if I click on the entity tab at the top, it'll populate this information and it'll tell me that this IP is associated with this host name. It's also associated with this user and this username, maybe a slight variation. One will be a Windows user, one will be an email address perhaps. And then also an IP address here as well. It's also being associated with this external IP address, okay. So again, that's really useful. It saves me having to go to other systems, do a lookup. What does this IP address belong to? Log into my Windows DHCP server or whatever my DHCP system is. and then having to look at, you know, what was it associated with. All that information is brought together for me here as well. Okay. So that's really, really cool. You know, I can very quickly determine what's happened there. So let me just jump back to the presentation again. Excuse me. Let's talk a little bit around how we generate that insight. So as I mentioned, each signal that gets triggered has a risk or a severity score associated with it. And you would have seen that in those screenshots there. There would have been a severity score and a signal. So essentially what's happening here is, along with tracking the entity and looking at the global confidence scoring, et cetera, it's also tallying up those severity points. So we can see that all of these added together equals 15 points in a 2-week period. Now, because I have a threshold set somewhere in the system that says, hey, if anything over 12 or 13 points occurs, then I want you to cluster those together as long as they're related and trigger an insight. We've burst through that, right? We've exceeded those 12 points, and then that's how the insight gets clustered and brought together. Okay. So I'm now able to kind of make a conclusion quickly and easy on what's happened. And as I said, when we were looking at the workflow, so, you know, I've got a user who's clicked received a phishing email, they've clicked on the link. I've got a checkpoint alert to say, hey, you know, my firewall has seen this malicious file being downloaded. Then I have a CrowdStrike EDR alert saying that malware is trying to execute on the endpoint. Okay. So from that conclusion, then obviously that determines what my actions are going to be. It looks like it was a successful phishing attack. So what do I do now? You know, contact the user, give them some user education, obviously, around clicking on malicious links, etc. I like the second point, confirm they didn't intentionally do anything, like they're going to tell me anyway. And then obviously go and clean that malware off of the machine, or quarantine it, re-image it, whatever your processes are for doing that. Okay. Then what I would do is I'd go through and update my workflow. So if I'm going to assign it to another team, I would do that under the Actions tab. Or if I'm in that position where I can work on it myself, then I would just close it off, add some comments in there, you know, user education given, and full system scan performed. Okay, then I can close off the insight within Cloud SIEM itself. And that's kind of, it's almost like a rinse and repeat, right? So the system is generating the insight for me. So I pick the highest priority new insight. Maybe the global confidence score is 95. So I know that I need to go and pick that one. Next thing I'm going to do is examine those signals, as you saw within that workbench view. Then I'm going to come to that conclusion. What happened? Okay, that timeline of activity is allowing me to make that conclusion a lot faster than I would historically or traditionally do with another SIEM platform. Take my action, pass it to another team, remediate it myself, maybe pass it on to a SOAR system to go and do an automated scan, password reset, whatever I want it to do via my normal playbook actions. Update the status, close the incident, etc., and then literally go back and restart again. Okay. So this is really good because I'm not blindly looking at, you know, a million alerts that are being generated now. It's telling me what to investigate. It's giving me the severity level and the priority that I need to investigate, you know, whether that's via the global confidence score. Hey, this is a 95, you need to go and investigate immediately. Or maybe telling me that it's a high severity, go and investigate this one. It's helping me determine what I need to do. So I'm no longer flying blindly in my SIEM platform. I'm not suffering from alert fatigue and all of those usual kind of things. Okay. So next thing is for you guys actually to log in now and go through one of these insights and see what kind of conclusion you come up with. Excuse me. So I've already moved one of these across. Let me just double check that it is there before I send you in there to investigate. Yes, it is. Yeah, so it's already there for you. So if you log into Cloud SIEM Advanced if you're not already logged in there, okay. Then click on Insights, and then under In Progress, you should see that Command and Control Insight called numbered 15246. Okay. So follow the workflow as I showed you, and then I'm going to give you 5 minutes actually to flick through that, and then we'll kind of come back and talk about what we saw and what we think may have happened. Okay. So if you guys want to jump in there and go through that workflow and see how you get on. So let me just bring the workflow screen back up. There you go. Okay. Follow that workflow in the demo environment, or in the training environment, sorry, I should say. And then we'll regroup in 5 minutes time, and then just kind of talk through what you found and what your conclusion was. If you've got any questions, by the way, don't forget to pop them into the Q&A window. So I just noticed on that on that screen there, it says pick initial access. Ignore that. If you can pick that Command and Control one, it's called Insight 15246. Sorry if that's any confusion there. Okie dokie. Let's have a look then. Let's see and see what you guys hopefully came up to with a conclusion. So essentially what you should have seen there was this particular insight came up with, there was kind of 3 signals there, right, that were part of this insight. So within those signals, you had an AWS API call from a terminated AD account. So this will be a standard kind of AWS signal that will be generated. Then there was a rare GIS guard duty alert as well for an instance credential exfiltration. The rare GIS part comes in from that global intelligence that I talked about earlier on. And then finally there was an AWS network firewall high severity alert, which from memory, I think was being detected from a malicious user agent. Okay. So looking at those signals, what kind of conclusion would you come to? And hopefully you come to a similar conclusion as I would have done. And it looks like I've got a terminated employee who still has access to AWS and may be attempting some malicious activity. Okay. So I've got access from a terminated AD account. I've got an instance credential exfiltration there. And then I've got a firewall high severity alert detecting a malicious user agent. Okay. So then the next step, obviously, using my workflow would be to take an action. So what kind of action would we take on that? I mean, this is a good question, right? So here it probably, it's highlighting something like, whatever my process is for terminated employees obviously has a flaw because the AWS account hasn't been terminated or locked or deleted or whatever as well. So I've got a bit of an issue there. Obviously, my first concern is, passing this maybe to my AWS team for them to look at the resource that was affected, the destination device IP or host or whatever. And then whether you do that yourself or you hand it off to another team to do, obviously is down to whatever your processes are within the SOC. But for this particular insight and that previous one I showed you around the phishing email, it's kind of worth thinking about how long would it take you normally to have detected that in your current environment. And the phishing email one, I guess, was a good example. Like I said, from my own personal experience, I know that tracking a successful phishing attack could take me easily a couple of hours to build that timeline of what's happened physically or manually. Whereas within a couple of minutes, I'm able to go in and determine exactly what's happened. So it's worth kind of considering how long it would take you to do that currently. So just to kind of quickly recap on a couple of things here, we've kind of talked about how we can simplify detection, correlating across multiple cloud, on-premise, etc. Okay. Enriching user device and network context. I talked a little bit about how we enrich with ASN information. If I've got an Active Directory or an Azure user, I can automatically enrich with context for that user. Where do they work, which department are they in, etc. And then automating actions there as well, not only from that investigation phase, which is critical, but also automating a workflow. Being able to very easily do that within Cloud SIEM Advanced, and then it maybe integrate with a SOAR product as well. So the whole purpose there is improving my efficiency, improving my SOC efficiency from investigation to remediation. Okay. Just a little bit of blurb there, I guess, about what Cloud SIEM Advanced is. It's like we said, it's powered by AWS. And it is it's available in most regions as well. Okay. So in conclusion, 3 key areas really here then that we cover from a security perspective. Audit and compliance, my most basic level. I need to log everything. I want it in one place. I need to meet a compliance need. Cloud SIEM giving me that deep search capability, my dashboarding and alerting, and some of those kind of advanced analytics. We talked a little bit around log compare, log reduce, being able to leverage the built-in threat intelligence to look at what's happening in the environment. And then, of course, our Cloud SIEM advanced as well. How we can do correlation across all different log sources, whether that's on-premise, whether it's cloud, multi-cloud, etc. And automating that investigation phase. Single most important thing to me, from my experience of being a security practitioner, is being able to cut through the noise. Give me a low volume of high fidelity alerts. I don't want to wade through all the noise, spend my entire day looking at noise. Tell me what's happening so I can get in there, action it as quickly as possible. Okay. So we do have a free trial, sign up. And let me, actually, Suresh, are you able to just post that link into the chat window for me? It won't let me copy it off of the screen I've got here, unfortunately. I'll get Suresh.
Which link do you want, Stefan?
The link that's on this particular slide here at the moment.
I will do that, Stefan.
Yeah, if you can pop that in there for me. And all you need to do then is you click on this link. Okay, it'll take you through to our free trial sign up page. All you need to do then is pop in your like an email address, choose whatever region you want. So within the APAC region here, we have an instance within Sydney. There's an instance in Mumbai, and there's another instance in Tokyo as well. Okay, which covers this kind of APJ region. So you can choose one of those. Of course, we've got deployments across the US, Europe as well. Okay. So all you need to do to sign up for a free account is just populate an email address in there, and then you'll get access into the platform. Okay. I'll get Suresh to, yep, there you go. That's in there already. Thank you. And if you want to learn more about Sumo Logic as well, when you sign up for one of those free accounts, there is training available in the core platform itself as well. So when you land in the core platform, if you guys have still got it open there now, go back to the core platform, the main page, click on the home button or the home icon at the very top. And you'll see 3 links underneath for home, learn, and certification. Okay, so you can click on those and it'll give you more in-depth training on the product, and you can do that in your own time as well. You can actually just learn more about us, or you can go in and become certified in the core platform and the Cloud SIEM Advanced as well. Okay, and that's all free of charge. There's no charge involved in any of that. You can also access our training and our help docs here. So these are those URLs on the screen for you. You can just go to sumologic.com, and then you'll see all of the links off of the main page for this documentation as well. If it's Suresh, you're a star. Thank you very much. I can see that he's posted it in. Actually, Suresh, did that go into everyone or just to?
Yeah, sorry, let me post it again. Looks like it gone to only the host and panelist maybe.
Awesome, thank you very much, Suresh. Yeah, so those links will be in the chat window there for you in a couple of seconds. Okay. We also have a YouTube channel as well. So feel free to go onto YouTube, do a search for Sumo Logic. And there's a whole stack of information and videos there that you can watch as well. Little snippets about how do I do this, such as how does CSE create an insight, through to a full-blown kind of 30 or 40-minute demo of the platform again. So feel free to go and have a browse through there. I appreciate that what we've kind of shown you today is quite condensed into the timeline we have. But if you want to learn more about Cloud SIEM or Cloud SIEM Advanced, then you'll find some more in-depth videos on our YouTube channel there as well. Okay. finally here, I'd ask you to please take that survey link. I think I've posted it a couple of times, but let me just drop it in there again. We'd really appreciate your feedback on this session, about the content, etc., etc. And that's pretty much it. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Understand, how busy we all are within security nowadays. So we really appreciate you taking the time out actually to come onto this session. Excuse me. I think my voice is just about to die on me now. I'm kind of done with my with my post-COVID talking. So yeah, once again, thank you very much. We hope you've kind of learned something and enjoyed the information from both AWS and ourselves. And with that, I will close off the session. You will get a link to the recording, by the way. So you can also go back and play this entire session again. And as I posted, those access credentials will be valid until the end of the month. I know we're on the 28th now, but you'll have a couple of days where you can still get access into that system there and have a bit of a play around if you want to. Okay. So listen, guys, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it and look forward to talking to you all again at some point in the future. Have a good afternoon, evening, and we'll catch you again. Thanks very much.